Okay, welcome to our all vendor meeting for La Crosse County Human Services. Oh, it's transcribing too. I haven't seen it do that before. I wonder if that's stop transcription. Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know, Ted kind of opened it up, but if you could mute yourself when you come in, or if you're not talking, that would be great. But also, I've been getting a lot of questions the last few of these that we've sent out. And so I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that we send this invite to all of our contracted vendors. And so I've gotten questions whether the meeting is required or not, and it's not. And we actually have a good amount of people on this call that I don't feel like what we're talking about will probably apply to the services. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that if it, for any reason, you are in this meeting and you feel like this really doesn't have much to do with me, we do send the agenda out with the meeting notice. But if you feel like that and you want to jump off of the meeting, you have other things to do. I know everybody's busy. Feel free to jump off the meeting. I don't want you all jumping off the meeting right now, but I just know that we have certain things on our agenda. We invite all of our contracted vendors. I want everybody to feel comfortable to listen in. If you just want more information about what our agency is doing, maybe you are looking at expanding services, and that's wonderful. We can always use that. But also always feel free that if you feel like maybe we've covered what you needed to get out of the meeting, you can always hop off when you need to, or again, step away from your computer. We aren't going to call on you. I will be calling on everyone as we go through for introductions. I'll call on certain company names, and I try to get everybody in here in alphabetical order as best I can, and call off a company name and have everybody introduce themselves. But I haven't ever said that before, and I just want people to feel free that if you're in a meeting, don't feel like you can't jump off if for some reason you need to go, or you can only make it to the first hour or whatever. So, but we want this to be meaningful for you. We're hoping that this seems to be a great place for us to come and share what we need to share and get it to the most number of vendors. And the virtual option has been wonderful. I think we've gotten so many people to join. So with that, I should have introduced myself before. My name is Chris Ander. I'm the contract unit supervisor here at La Crosse County Human Services. And we're gonna first go around to introductions of the La Crosse County staff, and then I'll call out the vendor names. If when I call off your vendor name, you have several, feel free to introduce yourself and your coworkers, or each of you introduce yourself. But also, if your agency has any announcements or things coming up, feel free to talk about that. If you're new to this meeting, might just be a good thing to say that you're new, and that, kind of let us know the services you provide, because if you're new and you need referrals, and other vendors might have a wait list, or, I know that, the social workers work with it that way, but it's just good for the other vendors to know what kind of services you provide that can help everybody. So let's start with the contract unit. So we have
Chris, I'm sorry, this is Sarah Eklund. I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to mention, so the transcription that you stopped, that's actually an accessibility feature.
Oh,
and so
shoot.
folks who are deaf, no, it's okay. For folks who are deaf or hard of hearing, it can help them keep track of the conversation. And another thing I would like to mention, especially with a meeting this size, when folks speak, if they could identify themselves every time they speak, especially if someone has a visual impairment, it can be really difficult to know who's talking. So if folks could just do that before they speak, that would be really appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, contract unit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Menninger. I'm the contract specialist with La Crosse County Human Services.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sabrina Clemerson. I am also a contract specialist for La Crosse County Human Services.
Hi, I'm Cindy Werschke. I'm the contract unit clerk. I'm the one that you send your signed contracts to. So thanks.
Maybe ISRS staff?
I can start. This is Shelley Tollefson. I am one of the supervisors in the Children's Long-Term Support Program, and our youth workers do mostly waiver and CCS.
Hi, I'm Ellen Daubert. I also am one of the CLTS supervisors along with a CCS supervisor as well.
Brian Ross. I'm one of the CCS soups. So we're shifting some of our roles. I'm overseeing more of our adult team and helping out with operations and kind of outcomes.
I'm Sarah Morschauser. I'm a CCS supervisor, and I am taking on more of the role and responsibilities of working with vendors and connecting and supporting vendors through meetings and questions and contracting and all of that. So hopefully I'm a familiar face for most of you by now.
Anyone else from ISRS?
I can introduce myself. I'm Annalise Trinka. I see some familiar faces. Hi. I started in the fall, coming on board to help with different projects, vendor-related things. So I've talked to some of you about like CCS training logs and things like that. So yeah, so I'm more and more
Hi, how
getting
are
into
you?
my role and yeah, be seeing you
Oh,
around.
man. Well, I got into this Teams meeting. And Teams only works about 50%.
Okay, somebody muted. I was trying to figure out how to do that. Any other ISRS staff? Okay. Then we're going to start with the vendors that I have on the list. You could have joined by the meeting link that was on the agenda that was mailed out. And so if you did, I don't have you on this list, and I'll ask for any anybody I missed at the end. So the first vendor is Accent on You.
Yes, I'm Joanne Jenkins. I'm down in East Troy, Wisconsin, which is Walworth County. We are a guardianship company, and we have expanded because of the needs up in the north of us, we are expanding our business up there, hopefully opening up an office if we get enough response. We do have a couple people up there now. I was just up in Tomahawk last week at a client, and so we are here. Some of your names do sound familiar with me because of the contract part of it, and like I said, we are here for people you have in this area. We're expanding, hopefully, for people that are not in our area. And we hope to be working with a lot of you.
Thank you. Adapt Physical Therapy and Fitness. Okay, Active.
Hi, my name is Lisa Duncanson. I'm a director with Active. We are primarily based here in the La Crosse area, also provide services out of Jackson County in Black River Falls and in the Janesville area as well. We do have an event coming up just to share. We partnered with the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, and we're hosting what's called a Cultivating Community Inclusion event. It's a free event on April 5th at English Lutheran Church in La Crosse. There'll be a free meal, a guest panel, individuals in their support network who have disabilities, and their focus is how we can focus on a more diverse and inclusive community in the La Crosse area. So all are invited, and it's on our website. Some of you may have gotten invitations already, but hoping that we can have a real focused conversation about how we might even become a more diverse and inclusive community.
And I'm Kaya Hungerholt, the Youth Services Manager for Active.
Thank you. Bethany St. Joe. Brave Spaces.
Hi, I'm Nicole Millerin. I'm the co-owner and clinical therapist at Brave Spaces. So we provide clinical therapy for adults through, or children through adults. And then also we have 2 canine wellness, skills builders, and then a wellness provider who does trauma sensitive yoga and other mindfulness. And we're in La Crosse and Sparta.
Rodaluk. Children's Wisconsin.
Hi, my name is Melissa Cantwell with Children's Wisconsin. We're out of Black River Falls, so we're contracted to work with a lot of our Jackson County families for individual skill development, wellness management, and psychoeducation.
Cholita.
Hi, this is Emily, clinical director with Cholita, the Shine Behavior Solutions program, so the CLTS side of things.
My name is Dylan. I'm also with Cholita. I work as an accounting specialist. So this is my first meeting like this, just trying to brush up on some billing stuff.
Great. Welcome. Chippewa River Industries.
Hi, my name is Andrew Weber. I'm the area services manager for La Crosse. We also serve the Chippewa and Eau Claire areas. We do daily living skills, and we do other job development, job coaching services, mostly contracted out through DVR. And this is also my first one of these meetings.
Welcome. Christian Servants Home Care.
Good morning, Matt Groh with Christian Servants Director. We are statewide. I primarily work the greater La Crosse area as well as some of the areas north of Milwaukee. Great to see everybody.
Corporate Guardians.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, it took me a little bit to get my mute off there. I'm Kay Schrader, owner and president of Corporate Guardians. We are a statewide agency providing guardianship services, case management, and estate work throughout the state with offices in La Crosse, Sparta, Kenosha, Pewaukee, Two Rivers, Beaver Dam, and now Wausau. So thank you for inviting us. We're glad to be here.
And I'm the Sparta La Crosse rep, Jessica.
Welcome. Creative Community Living Services. Family and Children's Center.
Good morning. This is Ann McDonald. I'm the CFO at Family and Children's Center. We have 7 locations in La Crosse, Viroqua, Winona, Sparta, and Black River Falls. And we offer a variety of services all over, outpatient, respite, TFC. So thank you.
Phlox Guardians.
Good morning. This is Kim Johnson, co-director of Phlox. Also on the call with me is Rochelle Lee. She's our account specialist. We do CLTS and CCS primarily in Monroe County.
Flying Horse.
Good morning. This is Lisa Carmichael. I'm the equine activity specialist.
Grace Counseling.
Good morning. My name is Casey Lombard with Grace Counseling and Family Services. We provide psychoeducation services in Monroe County and are primarily working in the Sauk area with offices in New Lisbon and Reedsburg.
Healing Hearts.
Hello, I'm Paris Prochaska. I provide therapeutic art services and I work with the CCS program.
Horse Sense?
Good morning, this is Samantha Hall. I'm the Executive Director at Horse Sense.
Independent Living Resources? I know Sarah was on, maybe she had to step away. Innovative Services?
Hi, this is Vanessa Hudson with Innovative Services, CCS Administrator. Also on the call with me today is Nicole Schrader, Service Coordinator for the La Crosse area. We primarily do CCS and we have some CLTS as well.
JTC Academy?
Hi, this is Renata Caldwell. I'm the Clinical Director at Transitional Center, as well as part of the programming for our JUMP program with JTC. We are residential located in Centerville, Illinois, which is right outside of St. Louis, and we service conduct youth and sex offenders, which are males ages 12 to 21. And this is my first time being a part of this meeting.
Oh, I see that Sarah Eklund did put something in the chat. Not sure why her mic wasn't working. ILR works with people with disabilities in 13 counties in Southwest Wisconsin. Lakeview?
Hi, my name is Tracy Kingsley. I'm the Community Living Supervisor here for Lakeview Health Center. I am new to the role, going on week 9. So just trying to familiarize myself with the CCS portion of this meeting.
Anybody else from Lakeview? I know there was quite a few that I invited.
I only know maybe my assisted living assistant might be on. She might come on later for the CCS portion, but Nikki Weigel, she'll be the one kind of heading up most of the CCS.
Okay. I think I just heard Life and Harmony get on. We're just doing introductions.
Thanks. This is Amy Scheck from Life and Harmony. I am the CEO, and we are based out of West Salem, providing music therapy services to waiver and CCS for skill development and wellness and recovery management.
Mastering Life Skills?
Good morning. I am Stacy Masters, and we provide services in La Crosse County and mainly work with CCS.
Midwest Corporate Guardian?
Hi, my name is Theodore Wiedenbeck, and I'm representing Midwest Wisconsin Corporate Guardianship. We're all over a lot of the state, not all of it, but we're slowly growing, and we're glad to be here.
Welcome. Milkweed Connections?
Hi, I'm Kim Blue, and I'm one of the team administrators for Milkweed. We provide peer mentoring and peer support services in now a 14 county region in western Wisconsin. We do a lot of CCS, but also other grant funded and private pay services as well.
New Horizons? RSVP?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tessa Thurine, and I am the administrator at RSVP. We are a retired senior volunteering program. So we provide meaningful volunteer experiences for people 55 and older, as well as we provide services for people 55 and older. And this is my first time on a call like this. I've been here since August.
Welcome. Special Needs Consulting.
Hi, I'm Natasha Pedretti, and I am a CLTS provider. I work with children under the age of 13 in their home on emotional regulation, social understanding, parent strategies, those types of things.
Stein. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Kim Stein. I'm the clinic administrator at STEM Counseling. We do have 2 new service providers for outpatient counseling. One is an APSW, so she has openings, and we have an MS intern with us this year through August, and she's also taking on new clients. So we have openings for those 2 ladies. We also are starting an LGBTQIA group to be offering to students and to their parents. So we're working on that this spring. So we're pretty excited to offer that to the community. We are currently serving in 8 different surrounding counties for various services. We provide psychotherapy, NMT services, parent risk assessments, and also work with CCS at our Bront office in Onalaska.
Thank you. The Parenting Place.
Hi, I'm Susan Fawson, and on this call is also Marilyn Heckenpohler. And we just had a reorganization, and we now supervise one of the sections is the children with special needs. So we have birth to 3, and we have family navigators doing the CLTS functional screens, and then we have family peer support coordinators who work with CCS and CLTS. So we're learning the programs.
Okay. Trailways. Winding Rivers Counseling.
Hi, my name is Danielle Hagedorn. I am the owner of Winding Rivers Counseling, and I'm also LPC and substance abuse counselor. I primarily treat and work with children, adolescents, and trauma. I provide services in some of the school districts up here in Eau Claire is where I'm located, and also providing services down in the Black River Falls, Toma area.
Okay. Wisconsin Family Ties.
Janet Adolphson with Wisconsin Family Ties, and I handle all the billing for our company. So that's I'm here just to learn a little bit more about the billing. So
great, welcome.
Thank you.
Youth Villages. Vernon Area Rehabilitation Center.
Good morning. My name is Risa Moss. I'm the Director of Client Services for BART. We provide child and youth services as well as adult services. So we are in 9 different counties and we have 13 different locations. We provide a variety of services for both child and youth and adult as far as community involvement and employment readiness skills.
That is the end of my list, but I know I've missed some people. So if you would just like to unmute yourself and introduce, and then we can.
Hi, Lisa Shutter with LNP.
Sorry, go ahead.
Lisa Shutter with LNP Services with Michaela Martin Steidel. We handle CLTS and CCS in Monroe and La Crosse County.
I'm Shannon McCone, Gunderson Health System. I'm a coordinator in outpatient behavioral health, and we have therapists, psychologists who see CCS patients in La Crosse, Onalaska, Sparta, Toma.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Kane from Maida House in Milwaukee. We contract with La Crosse on residential treatment referrals for women who are struggling with substance use disorder and co-occurring mental health.
Oh, Ellen, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm Ellen Clayson with Driftless Job Finder. I do Vernon, Crawford, Monroe, Cross, and possibly Jackson area. And I don't have any clients in Jackson yet, but I'm hoping to. I do employment and individual skill building. I have currently had a couple of successful closes and one client that has moved out of the area now and is getting services from a different county. And so I actually have 5 open spots. So just so everyone knows. And I've been doing this for almost 15 years and I love it. And by the way, I don't know where she went to. I don't see her picture up anymore, but I just like to say a big thank you to Connie, who does, I'm sorry, not Connie. Connie and Ingrid, who I've worked a lot with, helping with billing and stuff, and they are awesome at their job.
Thank you.
I am Bailey McGowan with Parenting Peer LLC, and I provide peer parent support for CCS and the crisis unit in La Crosse County. And I don't know, I'm full right now, so looking to expand my business, but still always wanting to learn from you all. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Carla Campion with Attic Correctional Services, and we do work with the CCS and outreach programs.
Hi, I'm
Good
Charity.
morning. I'm Lydia Nix with Youth Villages, and we provide services to La Crosse youth here in Tennessee.
Hi, I'm with Catholic Charities of the Diocese of La Crosse. My name is Charity, and I'm the finance coordinator. And I am here for the billing portion of the meeting.
Anyone else we're missing?
Hi, Angie Grogan from Trailways Counseling. We provide CCS for Monroe, Jackson, La Crosse counties, and we're pretty full, but we do have a few ISD openings. We're continuing to hire, especially looking for additional therapists up in that area of the state.
I'm Jay Clark, and I'm representing Peace of Mind Counseling. We exclusively therapeutic services in La Crosse, Monroe, and Jackson County, and in Trumpelow.
Anyone else? Sarah, we can't hear you. I see you talking and you unmuted yourself, but for some reason we are maybe try it again. No. Well, you could type it in the chat and then I can. Anyone else? Okay. I think we're going to move on with the agenda item. Okay. Sarah's the operations manager at Wisconsin Family Ties. So, the second thing on the agenda after introductions is we are releasing a request for proposal. This is a new one. We do have several vendors now that do NMT assessments. This will be released sometime, I'm hoping in April. We'll kind of release it. Basically, why we're releasing this for RFP now is we have continued to grow in this area. And when we spend $25,000 or more in a certain area, we need to release it for request for proposal. I believe that when we release this, it will be a lot like when we did skills, psychotherapy, psychoeducation, the employment stuff, where we will actually get rates and then average those rates to set one rate for our network. So that's kind of where we're trying to bring that in line. And so I have Sarah or Emily that can come on and explain kind of what an NMT assessment is and kind of, just the basics around it. We will have, during the request for proposal process, we will have a specific vendor conference for you to come ask questions after we release it. But this is just a general overview of what it is. So.
I'll pop on here. So NMT stands for the Neurosequential Model of Therapeutics. It is a specific type of assessment that was created by Dr. Bruce Perry. And so the NMT is an umbrella of the neurosequential model, and it is just one type of assessment that is under this umbrella of neurosequential. And the neurosequential model is really Dr. Perry's lifelong research and in collaboration with other professionals in the trauma, field, of looking at how our early life experiences and developmental insults and our relational connections, whether we have them or we don't have them, impact the way in which our brain develops. And within that philosophy, there's also the time in which those experiences happen also impact the brain development too. So critical periods of brain development. So it's so the NMT is specifically focused for clinicians, therapeutic clinicians, but there's also the NME, there's the NM sports model, there's early childhood, there's lots of other models. And with that being said, the NMT is not a diagnostic tool in any way. It doesn't mean to replace any other type of assessment, like a psychological assessment or a attachment assessment or anything like that. The NMT is meant to complement other assessments by really honing in and focusing on how brain development has happened based on a person's early life experiences and relational health. And I know there are other clinicians on this call that also do the NMT. I used to do the NMT prior to taking on this role as a supervisor, but if there are any other clinicians on the call who are certified in NMT, please feel free to jump in if I missed anything.
Or if there's any questions.
Yeah.
What's the age range of people who would be getting these assessments?
There really isn't a limit per se. I know that when I completed the NMT, I really liked to hone in on 3 years old to about 25. That was my niche. That's where I felt comfortable and felt like my expertise was best able to use the NMT. But the assessment is not limited to an age range.
Any other questions on that? Like I said, we'll release that hopefully in April. I'm planning on getting that released. And again, it's just to set a standard rate for the NMT assessments that we're paying for and to get everything kind of in line there. The next thing on the agenda is Children's Long-Term Support Waiver vendor information.
Hi, this is Shelley. I can speak to that. We don't have a lot of updates. Just to give you an overview, we do have the unwinding going on for our public health emergency. We're starting to work with DHS on that ending. And the targeted date for most of the unwinding under phase 1 will begin June 1st. So what that means is we're going back to permanent policy. And all of it needs to be completed by November 1st of 2023. There's some flexibilities between phase 1 and phase 2, but what it generally consists of is that we'll be doing functional screens again for kids in the Children's Long-Term Support Program. If they're currently in both CCS and CLTS, they are getting screened annually for CCS, but there's many kids that are waiver only that haven't had a screen since before the public health emergency began. So all of that unwinding is going to be going on based on what their functional screen date. So they won't all be due when June 1st happens. But a lot of changes will go back to the way they used to have. We'll have face-to-face every 6 months, and at the annual in the home. We've had a lot more flexibility with remote contacts with families, but we're really going back to permanent policy. So that means kids that maybe we haven't had contact with for a long time, or they've been missing in action and we haven't been able to get a hold of families. We couldn't close those kids to the program. And so that's going to start the unwinding process. We'll be starting to send letters. We have to reach out to families 3 times, at least 2 different ways. So that means letters, emails, phone, or text. So we'll be trying to still find people that we haven't really had contact with maybe during the COVID months in the last couple of years. And the other update, just if you have kids that you're serving that get daily living skills or counseling and therapeutic services, just a reminder to send in 6-month progress reports to the social workers so we can get those into our progress notes and updates. It's obviously less intense than CCS documentation, but we do need progress reports for those services. And I have sent out template examples. If people did need that, just reach out to me if you're a newer vendor. And then just the other update, we've been working with some vendors that would really like to have authorizations in a longer span than monthly. So we've been working with IT here, and we're going to try to start doing 4-month auths at a time to make things a little more streamlined and hopefully create less errors in the system as they're getting sent to WPS. So that is not finalized yet, but we're getting closer. And so hopefully we'll have updates for vendors as we get that rolled out and it's efficiently working. So those were only updates I have, but if anybody has questions, just let me know.
I'm not sure if it'd be a good thing to cover, like, I know the state finally got the state rates posted and the mileage came through at, was it 66 cents?
66, yep. So really the state rate schedule, nothing really changed except for mileage. And it retros back to January 1st. So we knew that was kind of going to be a headache, but WPS is supposed to be reimbursing vendors for the extra few cents that it increased to without you having to readjust anything. And that was the word we got from our program specialist at DHS. So yeah, mileage rate went up to 66 cents. It just got published, so it's a couple months late, but the rate is now 66. Other than that, all the state rates stayed the same for CLTS.
Thank you.
And then just reminders, if you have any questions on the CLTS training logs, I know people have reached out about if they're newer, what that really means. You can just contact me and I can talk you through those. And those are due annually with new staff. But yeah, that's it for waiver unless you guys have questions.
Well, we will move on to the comprehensive community services portion of the meeting, which is much longer, so, and what a lot of people are here for.
I will start us off. Yeah, we have quite a few things to share, but hopefully it is helpful and informational for you all. Feel free to pop in with any questions or comments after once I give space for that, just so we're not tripping over each other. The first thing that will address is notes and invoices, just kind of in an general sense. So a new invoice, the La Crosse or the RIC consortium invoice has been updated. So we'll be sharing this new invoice with all of you and asking that for your April, when you submit your April billing, please use this new invoice. Really, the invoice hasn't changed, so I don't want you to be fearful that the whole document looks different. Just added an additional column where it indicates the location codes, and this is in compliance with MA billing. As we're submitting billing to MA, we need to be more specific with where service providers are providing services. One thing to keep in mind when you are selecting location codes, think of where the consumer is at. Where is the consumer receiving services? And that will answer your question when you're selecting location codes, whether that's in person or whether that's telehealth. Your first question to yourself when thinking, what is the answer to the service code, is where is the consumer? So if you are providing services to a consumer via telehealth, and that consumer, and your question is, where is the consumer? And they're in their home, that would be the code you would use. Telehealth patient's home is how it's indicated on the invoice. And then the other option would be telehealth other, so really any other place other than the patient's home. And then there's also, if you're doing face-to-face, right, there's school, there's office, there's home, so the other location should be pretty self-explanatory. One other comment I want to make about the service locations is that we've had some questions about, well, what if the meeting's hybrid, right? Some members are online and then some are in person. Again, I would ask you to ask yourself, where is the consumer? If the consumer is face-to-face with you and other providers are hybrid, then you are having a face-to-face meeting, and the service location would be wherever you're facilitating this hybrid meeting face-to-face. So if that's in the consumer's home or at the office building. If you ask your question, where is the consumer, and there are providers present with you, but the consumer is virtual, then therefore you're having a telehealth meeting, and the question would either be, are they in their home or somewhere else? So I'm going to pause there. Thumbs up, head nods, unmute if that wasn't clear or that doesn't make sense. Thank you. Bailey, I see your head. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Sarah, can I throw in one quick just clarification? Because it is newer, some of you are familiar with like coding your notes and such as telehealth. With the new telehealth policy from Medicaid, there are two telehealth locations now that will be rolling out. So Medicaid is asking us to code telehealth while a client or a consumer is in their home versus telehealth where the consumer is anywhere other than their home. So that might be new for some agencies, where before we were just coding it telehealth, but now there are two distinct telehealth options for the location. So that component is new to all of us.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So if the client's at home and we're doing a telehealth meeting, then it's telehealth home. If the client's at, say, Monroe County Human Service Department and I'm at home, it's still telehealth other than, because the client's not at home, he's at some other building. Okay.
Correct.
I just want to double check.
Yep. To Sarah's point, where is the client in relation to you? Yep.
Thanks for asking that question, Ellen. I'm sure you weren't the only one who needed clarification. Okay, and then another topic we wanted to bring up or talk about or ask, submitting notes that are non-billable, such as like no-shows or cancellations. So
couple things. We're asking asking providers if they could still submit notes even though they're non-billable. If their consumers don't show up or there's a cancellation. I realize that, you know, this does take time and it is non-billable, but we're asking this for one reason, to help to help the facilitators and MHPs really understand patterns of behavior with consumers, service providing, really making sure that the units on the plan are still needed. And what's happening or what we're noticing is that MHPs and service facilitators will meet during their consultations and notice that maybe there were 80 units on the plan and last month only 15 were used. And so the MHP and facilitator are like, well, why do we have 80 units on this plan when they didn't need it last month? And what we didn't know was that there was multiple cancellations or multiple no-shows that we didn't realize because that wasn't communicated or in whatever way. So we're asking providers if they could just put in a very brief note. It does not have to meet all of the Medicaid standards because we're not submitting it for billing, but more so just so that it can go into the consumer's record and provide updates and information to the service facilitator and MHP. Another note to this too is also perhaps communicating when no-shows, maybe on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, just depending on how frequently you provide service. That could be another option to this. Besides notes, I know, and the reason why I bring that up too is I also want to recognize your time is valuable. And when I was a vendor, I know that my agency software for how we put notes in, it doesn't matter how long my note was. It took me 15 minutes, whether I was writing client no-show today or I had 10 paragraphs. So I realized, and it was just because of the software we used and all the way it made you fill out the note. So I realize you don't want you to spend unnecessary time that's not billable, but we also want to find a way that we can communicate services and not being used or units not being used, but that are still needed. Ellen, go ahead.
I was just wondering, currently I put in my case notes. So if I meet a client, say I was supposed to meet a client on March 1st and they were a no-show, no call. So then I met with them on March and say maybe on March 8th, they texted me, they just canceled, they weren't feeling good. But say on the 15th, I met them. So on my 15th case note, I would write note, I just put note in bold and I write client canceled meeting or client was a no-show on March 1st and called or texted and canceled on March 8th. So it's all in that note instead of 3 separate notes. Is that okay still?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's very helpful. Just just somewhere to note it so that it's being noted and seen by the service facilitator and MHP. Yep. Yeah, that's a great example, Ellen. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think we've seen some agencies who will do like a end of month summary. Again, to Sarah's point, their health record system might be complicated, so they may date their service. What's this month? March. They may do like a March 31st date of service, but indicate like no shows on March 7th, 15th, 22nd, just to like have some sort of record. And so it's not like every date of service. Again, that's up to each agency how they would like to record that or reflect that. So we have like some progression and flow within the consumer story.
Okay. I'm going to keep moving along. So
yes, if you have any further questions about that or any other ideas, let us know. Otherwise, if you could add that to your practice, that would be very helpful and kind of help with any miscommunications in between the service facilitators receiving notes or connecting with you. So the next topic too, I know that I have, for those that I have been meeting with or have had an opportunity this year, as of this year, to meet with, I know I've shared this, but really want to make sure that we are upfront and just making it clear that we are really going to be, I don't know if the word enforcing is the right word, but just really going to be holding strong to the clean claim policy of 60 days. This has always been the case in the contract. We've always asked that notes and invoices be submitted within 60 or by 60 days from the end of the month. And so, but I know that we've been a little lenient with it and kind of gray with it. But this year we are asking that all notes be submitted by 60 days and clean. And what that means is just no mistakes or corrections are needed. We really encourage and really want to ask that you submit your notes, well in advance of that 60 days. However, I get it, things pile up and billing and documenting can really be a big time crunch. I remember that as a vendor. And so if you do submit your notes by like day 59, please know that if you do have a lot of mistakes, we will not be able to accept the notes past the 60-day clean claim. But we will process and pay any notes that are clean if you do submit them kind of at the end. Now, please keep in mind too, we're not doing this because we're trying to get out of paying our service providers. I mean, if it was that, if it was just that, this wouldn't be something we would be asking. But really, the reason why we're asking for 60 days is because once you guys submit, once your notes come to us, it goes to many other processes. There are multiple layers in this, which is also why your checks don't come in instantly, because it goes through several processes and layers. So when we're getting notes from vendors, it's hard for us to close our billing at the end of the month when we're missing one vendor out of our entire network. So just that's kind of why we're asking, in a very simplified explanation of it all. Now, we are reasonable over here at the county, and I hope you all know that. So we ask for communication. If something out of left field happens, I don't know, a medical leave, something unexpected happens, and you're going to be past the 60 days, just communicate with us. We are willing to work and be reasonable. Because we realize life happens and things happen. We want to make sure you all get paid, because we really do respect the services and your expertise that you provide to our consortium. So please reach out to us and communicate with us. But if it becomes a pattern of behavior and we're noticing it month after month, and we might have to say something more. But really, we just really want to communicate and be in that process. And then finally with that, we just suggest having an internal QA. Again, I used to be a vendor doing my notes as well, and I swear to you, I would look at my note 20 times before I sent it, and they'd still find something. So I get that it's incredible. Our QA team over here can really find everything. But nonetheless, you can really catch a lot of these mistakes if you are able to do your own internal QA or have your own internal QA staff. So we strongly suggest that, but we also understand limitations in that. Any questions about that, or comments or thoughts? All right, and then to wrap up my piece of it here, another topic I wanted to point out when it comes to billing or in general, please keep in mind that we receive when we process your invoices and get your and then process it and submit it for reimbursement from Medicaid, and the fiscal gets your check out. It does take time, and especially if there's back and forth between the provider and QA team about getting corrections on your notes, it can take extra time. So we're really, we've had a couple agencies, ask for checks to be expedited, or asked if we can send checks sooner or cut them a check right away. And unfortunately, that we can't make the checks happen sooner than the process it goes. So the way we process your invoices and billing in the order that they're received. And I wish that we could cut a check, within a couple days, because I realize you guys are front loading and you still have to pay your bills and you still have to pay your staff. And I'm sorry for the kind of the process of it all. But unfortunately, there's really our hands, we can't really cut the time any shorter than what it is, as long as you submit clean claim. So we asked, the great idea is really just making sure that you have enough, enough financial finance to be able to pay staff for a couple, for like, for a month or two, excuse me, I can't talk. Yeah, thank you, Ellen. 2 to 3 months in advance, and in case of delayed payment or whatever the complexity may be over on our end. Again, we want to pay you as quickly as possible. I promise you, we're over here working as diligently as possible. But sometimes too, that was another reason for the 60-day clean claim too, is sometimes we can't submit payment to MA because we're waiting for one agency in January, the month of January, to be able to submit it off to MA. So that's another, that's where I'm talking about. It really complicates or slows up the process. Any thoughts or comments or dialogue or anything that comes of that?
I have a question. Because I've gone through a few months of the billing cycle, but is there an ebb and flow to the length of time it takes to get through the process? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes are we through it in 4 weeks and sometimes we're through it in 6 weeks? I'm just wondering about,
Yeah,
I don't want to say like, what's the expectation? Because I also understand the process and that there are a lot of people that help with that process. So is there something that I might be expecting in terms of that ebb and flow?
Yeah, I know that our QA and fiscal teams, they usually say as long as they get a clean claim, around 2 weeks in the QA side, give or take, right? And about 2 weeks with fiscal, give or take. So I think it's fair to say between 4 and 6 weeks is a good timeline. Now, remember, clean claim. So once they get your notes clean, that's when your time clock starts, because for that month, they don't just go, oh, these 4 dates are clean and the other 5 aren't. They hold your whole month until all of your claims are submitted. And that's just for organizational sake. But yes, exactly. Good question, Bailey. So yeah, about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, for anybody who is receiving paper checks, please know that too, though, we do have the ability to process your payments electronically. And I believe that's through Wells Fargo. So if anybody is interested in that, please reach out. I guess you could reach out to me and I can notify fiscal, and we can get you, I believe one of our fiscal specialists will email you with the link to get you set up with electronic funding. So if that's something you are interested in, you can let one of us know. You could email the CCS soups as well.
I believe that you could probably get a hold of me or Sarah, because I think I'm the one that I have for many vendors. I've gotten a hold of finance, and then they said that you will get something from Wells Fargo. So I always want to make sure that you have something coming from Wells Fargo, because of all the emails that we all get that might not be real. But once you ask for that, you will get a link, I believe, from Wells Fargo.
Thanks, Chris. Yep. Go ahead, Ellen.
Chris, just one quick question. So do we get a copy of the check stub still then? Or is there a way we can access in order for tax purposes? I need copies of my pay stubs to show my accountant.
I would have to ask fiscal. I'm not, unless any of the CCS supervisors are aware of how that works. I'm not. So Ellen, I can ask fiscal and,
Okay.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
good question.
I'd much rather get it deposited. I did not know you guys did that than have it sent to me, as long as I can get a copy of that check so I can show my accountant. So
You
she
know, I'll
doesn't
send,
holler at me.
yeah, I'll send a message right now and see if I can get an answer before the end of the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Right. Well, for notes and invoicing, that's all I have for you. And then jump in if you have anything else to ask or thoughts or concerns. Otherwise, I will pass it on to, I believe, Ellen.
I wanted to give a little space there. Want to talk about the unwinding, like Shelley had mentioned with the CLTS. They're also unwinding with us with CCS and the emergency orders. We'll be getting back to more focused with the medical necessity at the level of what CCS services are providing for consumers. Not that we haven't, but that we will focus in on that more. I know there'll be some changes with benefits for people and such. But additionally, we will really looking at, do they need more than that outpatient level of care for services for which is CCS. So you may notice more conversations coming up in regards to that about consumers graduating or getting ready for those next steps. And with that step down, kind of really being able to pay attention, what could they continue as far as services once leaving CCS? And we know those typical outpatient level of services is the hope if they are getting currently like psychotherapy through your agencies as such that they would be able to continue that with their typical insurance benefits that they have beyond leaving CCS. We know that might look a little different because depending on where you're serving them and what you're providing as far as for yourselves, maybe travel and things, and those aren't typical things that insurance covers. However, if the consumer is at that stage of readiness to go to that next level, we will be continuing to communicate that with the team to help get them to that next spot in hopes that if you are providing that service, that you can continue that in their journey in recovery process of being able to work more in that outpatient level of service. Don't know if Ryan or Sarah have anything else to add on that particularly.
Ellen, can I hop in real quick? They got back to me already.
Yeah.
All right, finance says the remittance will get emailed to the vendor when they sign up for electronic payment. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And then another piece is that we are also asking at this time for those vendors that are providing the clinical services through psychotherapy or substance abuse that we get a copy of the current licensure, professional licensure or credentials that you are required to hold to be in that, to have that position to be sent to us to have for CCS. So knowing that those licensures are updated every 2 years on the odd years that we know that we just had that happen in this February here. So we're asking any vendors who are providing psychotherapy or substance abuse counseling services to submit those licensures along with any of your typical documentation that you might send in for personnel or for with your billing services to that HS invoices if you could. Yes, looks like there's a question. Jay.
Where do we submit those? And are you, is that, I'm just trying to distinguish if you're asking for each provider's license or the agency's certification through the state.
Good question. Yeah, we are actually asking for each individual provider's licensure credentials. And to the HS invoice box is where you could send that. Emily has maybe something to add.
No, I was gonna just add to that. We haven't necessarily talked about that, but I think we ask for the certification, agency certification on the front end, but I think that would also be very valuable to have your like DHS 35 or 75
75.
Certification for your on-site reviews. That would be very helpful to have as well. But yeah, like Ellen's saying, the specific licensures for, you know, as an example, LPC, the in training, LPCIT. Also, if you are, you know, a QTT, any of your QTTs, QTT1, QTT2, receiving that kind of verification for each of those providers.
And I think we had talked about like if they're in the internship piece, that if you could get maybe if there's a letter that you've or what am I say, like a contract or something that you might set up to be providing that through the school for that particular person who is in training, or if something that maybe like you have something, just a letter from the supervisor who's providing that, we could put that in file for anyone who is in working on their internship through the QTT1, excuse me, because they wouldn't particularly have a license for that. I hope that makes sense. Or any questions on that?
I just want to say from the contracting perspective, I know Jay, you and I have communicated on occasion. The clinic license usually is required with the contract, and so that the clinic license gets sent to me. But all these individual licenses should go to the HS invoice email to get processed through the QA process.
Yes, thanks for clarifying that, Cindy. Appreciate that. And then, Sarah, I think I might have you speak to this one more about the notification process for programs or staff changes.
Sure, yeah. So let's see here. So we have a big vendor network. And as you know, I mean, there's a lots of us on this call, but this isn't everybody. So the point is we're growing. There are lots of changes by the week, by the day, between vendors, where your building locations are, who you've hired, who's moved on to a different position. Licensure changes, gosh, I mean, the list goes on. So with all that being said, we are asking for communication from vendor agencies about changes with your providers, especially. We realize, so I mean, it's on different levels, right? So just changes with providers, any additional providers, obviously, I mean, I feel like I say obviously, but that seems to come to our attention because usually you have to reach out usually to me, or it used to be Emily, but now to me because they need to be credentialed. So usually we know about those. But any providers who maybe no longer are a provider with your agency, that would be really helpful to know, perhaps emailing the CCS Soups email. And myself, Ellen, and Ryan, we all have access to that email inbox. And then that way too, we can notify our staff just to say, hey, so-and-so at this agency is no longer there, or maybe they, you know, maybe they've switched positions and they're now providing therapy where before they were a QTT1. So these are all good things to know. So just wondering if you can provide us with updates by emailing that email box. Another issue or another reason why we're asking for updates too is We, whenever you do have staff who are transitioning, whether you leaving your agency, and they're carrying a caseload of CCS consumers, RIC CCS consumers, we ask that you pull in that service facilitator and MHP about transitioning the consumer to a different, whether it be to a different provider within your vendor or within your other providers, or if you have to put them on a wait list while you hire or whatever the case may be. If you can include the service facilitator or MHP in that process as soon as you know about it. I realize, especially when it comes to college students coming and going, and we give 2 weeks, I do want to validate. I know that it's kind of fast when this happens, and then when staff are transitioning out, trying to get their cases reassigned. I realize everybody's, flying by the seat of their pants at this moment. But just really looking for communication and really including that MHP and service facilitator in your case assignments, because whether, a lot of times the MHPs have and service facilitators have thoughts on kind of like style or personality if you have other vendors, or maybe they know that their consumer can't wait a period of time. And so they might have to send referrals to another agency just because of the needs of the family. And yeah, so just communication in general. I will give I guess a shout out to, I know Trailways. They send out a monthly newsletter, I believe it is, and they give just a quick brief update about providers or any updates that have been going on at Trailways. And I know that Jackson County and was it Monroe County and Jackson County, they have Alicia and Jess. They have both commented that their staff really appreciate that, or they like those updates. And I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to do that, but it's just an example of a way of communicating. Anything to add, Ryan or Ellen?
Yeah, I know there was a question about like where to email, and I think just to recap, like CCS Soups is helpful for us at the administrative end, letting the billing team know when you submit invoices like, hey, this is this last person's invoice is helpful for their process. And I think the step that gets missed is the facilitator, the county social worker, because we've had a few instances where staff have left and facilitators didn't know, and they learned from their consumers, hey, my such and such worker hasn't shown up for 2 weeks. And we're kind of like, oh, what happened? And when we follow up, it's like, oh, the person left, and learning about it after the fact or from the consumer. And that just kind of feels, it just lands weird for the consumer. And we're just trying to help support with transition plans or even messaging. Like, hey, your worker is going to be out for a while, but agency has a plan. So we're just going to hold on for a bit. But just trying to help be planful around the transition. Any other questions, comments, wonderings so far?
Kim, you are asking location codes and how they should be entered on the invoice. When you see the invoice, you'll see it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's a drop-down menu. So it's just an added column, and then you just click the drop-down menu, and then you select based on the question, where was the consumer? So please unmute or let me know if that isn't helpful. Okay, thank you. She said, perfect, thank you. Fabulous. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, good. Good. Time for questions before I move on to the next segment in the agenda. So. All right, well, I'm gonna jump in then. We have 2 more items left. One, kind of wanted to give like, I don't know, state of the consortium update, kind of what's been happening and some things that are coming up here, from the program side. So I'm gonna start off with, how did 2022 look in terms of trends? Just to kind of help you all get a sense of where the program's at, and kind of some of the needs that we're seeing, and some of the successes we've all collectively had together. And then just talk about, the last bullet point for the agenda is talking about, a new, training resource library that we'll be sharing. So, let's start with, what happened in 2022. So just broad level, what's been happening, kind of to the point that's been brought up indirectly, is we have the CCS program continues to grow and become quite large. Some of you on the call have been with us for quite some time and remember back when we were like 50 consumers and like 5 vendors. And last year we served about 750 folks, through the CCS program, about 50-50 split between youth and adults. As we're talking about the vendor network growing, last year we had 100 agencies that we were contracted with at one point providing services. In terms of staff starting and stopping, we have not over 900 folks on our list that we have background checks for, reference letters saying they're providing CCS, and about 500 of those who actually billed for services last year. So again, on our side, the administrative side, we're kind of like, there's 400 people lingering out there. Like, are they still there? Are they not there? What's their status? Some of them are you all who are program supports and leads and maybe don't do billing. All is fine. But this also adds to the fact that why we're coming back to, 60-day clean claim, processing 750 invoices by 500 billing staff. That's a lot of notes that our QA team is looking at and reading and reviewing. And we're trying to pay you all in a fast time. It's a big undertaking and a quick turnaround. So if there's like 1 or 2 notes lingering out there, it holds up a whole lot of process. And we're just trying to tighten things up and get things moving faster, faster for you all. So, but with that, we've also had a number of discharges, just shy of 200. Just to kind of give some ranges and some numbers. I know there's often questions, when somebody comes in, how long are they in the program? Our average for youth and adults is both around 3 years average, plus or minus like 5 percentage points if you're a youth or an adult. But the range is quite wide. So our shortest one was 6 months in the program. Our longest term person right now is hitting their 17th year. Continuing to need just ongoing supports and different levels of supports. So quite the range. But with all of your help, over 2/3 of our consumers successfully completed the program, no longer needing it, meeting their treatment objectives, coming to the county or to us and saying, hey, I think I got this. I don't need the supports anymore. So that's a huge win for all the hard work that you're doing. With a few other points there, 21% we don't hear from, or they went to a higher level of care, and that could be jail, that could be institutional care. So sometimes that's a higher level ongoing residential facility. So a lot of work, a lot of things happening in the program. But just to kind of talk about what are we seeing in terms of trends in the program? I know this is a question we also get quite a bit, like, hey, what are we seeing? Where can I target my services or refine a little bit? We're going to break it up into what we're seeing on the youth side, what we're seeing for caregivers, and what we're seeing for adults. We have different ways that we can kind of track some of this and get some of this information. But what we're seeing at time of admission, so youth coming into the program brand new, here are top 6. Apparently I have 6 instead of 5, but what are we seeing the needs? Like, why are we interested in CCS? What do we need help and support with? So for our youth, we're seeing impulse control is 68% of our youth coming in are struggling with impulse control, functioning with peers, family relationship conflicts, anxiety, anger control, and other functioning with adults. So lot of social issues, and I'm sure a lot of you are seeing that and feeling that. That continues to be the need, family dynamics and peer relationships. And we tend to see like that anger control, that anxiety, and that impulse control being kind of some of those root causes lead out into the relationships that our kids are having with their peers and with the adults in their lives. So if that's helpful to think about, like, hey, how can I look at things differently, or what kind of resources should I be examining? Kind of some points for you to consider, right? And ongoing, not just at admission, but ongoing at the annual reviews. The needs aren't really changing. It's still kind of the same stuff that we're all working towards. So again, if as folks are like, hey, are there any curriculums we should be looking at? Are there any skills training things we should be exploring? These are the areas that we're seeing the highest need. Conversely, too, though, not just talking about needs, but the strengths that we're seeing a lot of our youth come in with. So on our left-hand side, we see the strengths that a lot of our youth are coming into the program with. On the right-hand side, the strengths that are underdeveloped and maybe need some more support. So even though family conflict tends to be one of the higher needs, we also see that a lot of our youth coming in have extended family that are supportive. And so a lot of conversations and team meetings that are likely happening talking about who are the natural supports in the life of this youth? Who else can we lean into? The school system, a lot of partnering with the school districts and getting creative, like how can we help meet the needs of this child? So, yeah. Those are kind of some of the trends that we're seeing with our youth. I know this is our numbers. I have some visual graphs coming up here. If there are questions or clarifications or just wonderings, feel free to shout them out. Visually, as we're looking at admission to discharge, particular for discharges of last year, kind of what we're visualizing, blue graph is admission, gray is discharge. Daily living skills, so this is like peer interactions, daily tasks, chores, sleeping. We're seeing those trending down. Coping with mental health issues like coping skills and resiliency, we're seeing those trend down. School behaviors kind of bopping everywhere, kind of remaining consistent. Family relations continues to be like a high area of need. So I know a lot of conversations about how do we get into the home more? How do we support parents and caregivers differently is a big conversation. So again, for agencies that are like, hey, how could we expand or do differently? It's definitely an area that continues to be a need. How do we support in the home differently or support caregivers differently? Just kind of building off that, this is the trend over the last 4 years. Again, just kind of seeing the needs at admission. Like most things are kind of stable. Child and family conflict, again, over the last 4 years continues to be a high area of need within the family unit. We are seeing an increase trending upward in terms of school and how school looks for some of our youth. No doubt, I could speculate that some of that is related to COVID and how taking 2 years off or navigating through the issues of COVID and going back to school full time has an impact on that. That's my speculation, but definitely a trend that we're seeing. But at the same time, we're also making growth. So again, these are the strengths that we're seeing, like how many of our youth have a strength. So even though positive peers was a high need with a low strength, by the time of discharge, we're seeing a lot more growth in that area where our youth are having positive peer connections, being able to make decisions at a more positive level as opposed to just impulsively firing off and going in to make decisions. So lots of hard work that you all are doing. So definitely appreciate the effort you're doing there. So with our caregivers, kind of what we're seeing with parents and caregivers, again, kind of needs at when folks are coming into the program, and for those that have been in the program for a while, managing the stress of the household continues to be the highest need at admission and for ongoing needs. So again, linking back to if our youth are struggling with parent-child dynamics or child caregiver dynamics, and our caregivers are stressed out about these dynamics, it just creates like this dynamic tension, right? So how can we look at targeting that differently or working with that differently? Helping build social resources and supports for our caregivers, not just becoming dependent on us as the providers, but how do we connect them with other parents and caregivers in the community? How can we help them develop a social support network? So when our caregivers need a break, who can they call on? Who can they rely on? And how can they access other resources in their area that aren't always dependent upon us? So those tend to be like the big noteworthy ones at this point. Again, some more data points there. So if there's curiosity or just wonderings and reflections, feel free to share.
Will you share this data with us so that we can share it with the folks in our offices? Because I think some of these are really key for
Sure.
all of us to like start becoming more experts in.
Absolutely. Sure can. We'll get it out with the notes for the meeting. All right. So then for our adult consumers, just kind of shifting a little bit. And kind of needs that admission and needs that review time for those who have been in the program for more than a year. Very similar looking. Anxiety and depression tend to kind of lead the charge. How do I respond with all this anxiety, or how do I get going in the day? Trauma, and how do I respond and process to traumas that have happened in my life? This could have been recent, this could have been in the past. Either way, it's a traumatic event that is having an impact here and now today for our adults. But a lot of our adults too, coming into the program, really struggling with that sense of connection. Like, who are my people? That social connection. And also, what do I do with my day? Some of our folks are like, all I do is go to programming and go to services all day. And I don't have a meaningful activity. I don't have hobbies to get to. I don't have events to go to. I don't know what to do with my time or with my life other than show up for services. So how do we help expand that out and build more of those connections for our adult consumers with those in the community? Likewise, just kind of looking at some of the strengths our adults are coming in with. Our adults are very resourceful. They know how to ask questions. A lot of them know where to seek out resources. They may be limited in what they can access, but they know how to reach out. So how can we view them as experts and kind of leverage in? What have you tried? Where are you working already? How can we help support you more in that area? A lot of our adults have talents and interests. But then again, we see the need of what am I supposed to do with my time? So how do we actualize and put that talent and interest into play? Hey, you know how to play guitar? Cool. Let's find an outlet for that. How can we connect you with the community band or a community whatever, and put that into some sort of use? Is again, kind of one of our lower strengths to build up is that sense of connection to their community, connection with a peer group, or folks that they feel that they belong to, a group they belong to. So our adults, just looking at trends from admission to discharge, again, just kind of overall seeing some growth points. So ability to cope and manage mental health trending down, substance use going down slightly, interaction with the legal system, psychiatric hospitalization use or risk of hospitalization going down, unemployment and employment skills. Folks are finding jobs, finding meaningful and gainful employment. So. Again, just looking at trends over the last 4 years for our adults, just to kind of see, is anything kind of out of the norm, or is this kind of the standard? Mental health, ability to cope and manage our mental health is kind of the same. Substance use, we're seeing some slight rise. Legal, kind of going up and down, but mostly consistent. Psychiatric hospitalizations, that first year of COVID definitely saw a higher spike. But otherwise, kind of similar in terms of risk for hospitalization. And unemployment continues at admission. About a third of our consumers looking for, again, that meaningful, what should I be doing with my time, and looking for employment or support with employment. But again, lots of progress being made in promoting our strengths, building folks up. So again, time of admission to discharge, building more community connections, building more social supports, building hope for change, optimism and hope that things can be better. It's a huge one. Employment going up. So again, it's a lot of credit to the work that you all are doing and pouring into and supporting our adult consumers. So again, very much thank you for your supports with all that. So that's kind of a snapshot from program level of kind of where we're at and what we're seeing. Again, just kind of pausing for questions, clarity, reflections, general wonderings on any of that. Lots of numbers.
I just wanted to bring up quick that I put it in the chat, our website. This recording, along with any of the presentation materials, get shared on our website within a week of the meeting. It'll be out there. So if you have any staff that couldn't make it but need, you think it would be good for them to watch this recording, it does say current request for proposals, lacrossecounty.org. Basically, it's La Crosse County website, human services, vendor information. And the first thing on there is the current request for proposals, but that's, if you scroll down, you get to past recordings of meetings and presentation materials. So.
Deal. All right, well, I'll take that then to lean into our last topic for today. Another theme that's come up is just how do we share information across the consortium, especially as we continue to grow and get larger. And so there's been many different ways that we've tried to tackle it, and we're going to try a new system here. We've tested out with a few vendors who've said it works and it's great. We have built a vendor SharePoint site. So some of you might be familiar with Microsoft SharePoint, and others, this might be something brand new. But it is a website that allows a central storage for information and a library of documents. So what I will do is I will show you where we are at so far with it, and then talk about how to access it. So this would be available to vendors and contracted agencies. Kind of how we have it set up is we have different libraries of information that you can access. We'll start with general information. This is, hey, what is the CCS program about? Information on what it is, the statutes, the Medicaid rules, if you're all interested in that. The staff directory, lots of questions about who do I contact about what? Okay, here's my worker, but what's their phone number, their email? So we'll have that available where you can just kind of look by county. Who is the staff? What's their contact information? So we have that under general stuff. Just going to think about it for a while. The next segment is program documents. So for those of you that are more like program leads or program administrators, it's going to be more of interest to you. So this is where we're going to have like common forms to run the business. So the invoice that Sarah was talking about, we're going to have a copy of the new invoice out here. Clinical supervision log. Hey, I need a new clinical supervision log. We'll have that posted out here. The progress note templates, common questions about, hey, what's the alphabet soup of what type of training log do I need? What are the acceptable bachelor degrees that I can roster my staff as? We'll have some of that information out here for you to see and just look at rather than emailing and asking the question. You can just come out here and look. Copies of the training logs and resources, FAQ documents related to the program, documentation, clinical supervision, all the different things. I know Sarah's working on updating this new staff provider checklist. So, hey, I had a new staff start. What do they need to do? All right, here's your 10-step bullet point checkbox. What you need to do, what you need to complete, where to send the stuff. So we'll have that out there. And I know the one I get a lot of questions about are trainings. Hey, where's the training resources? Is there a recording of that training somewhere? This one is still being built as we're putting stuff out, but when you have new staff start, we have copies of videos and the resources. So pre-COVID, some of you may remember I used to do orientations every quarter for new staff. I'm going to put all these resources out there for the various trainings we've had over time. We're going to put resources out there, handouts, video recordings. I know progress notes and billing is one we get a lot of. So we did a training last August, it looks like, where we talked about the new telehealth rules and how that impacts billing and notes. So that recording is out there. Skills trainer, I know I get a lot of requests for skills training and wellness. Hey, how do I spice up and jazz up my services? It's just some different resources out there you can reference and look at and get some ideas on. Along with some other links to websites for lots of different training resources. All of these lead to free training resources through SAMHSA or state and federal networks that are out there, just loads of information. So again, when I know a common question is, hey, I have a new staff starting, where can I get this training requirement filled? And the hope is to have a spot where you can at least start and have some more ideas and more resources to look at. So those are the 3 libraries that we're in process of building. Meeting and events. I know already the first 10 minutes of this meeting, I think I saw 3 emails like, hey, where's the link to the vendor conference? You can go here, click on the link, join the meeting from here. The clinical supervision groups that happen. When is the date? How do I get there? They're going to be out here. So another way. As things come up, I know Jackson County is hosting a motivational interview training next month. Information about it and how to get access to it. Who do I contact about what? That's another one. The came up in the chat just now, right? Like, hey, who do I reach out to about questions about my billing? Cool. Click here. It opens up a new email for you to send to invoices. Questions about the program and contracting. Cool. Click on the supervisor's email. It'll start a new email for you. So still in development, but this is where we're at, and we feel comfortable enough that we're in a place that we can roll this out to you all. How it will work is if given the size of our vendor network right now, as you saw earlier, our IT team is able to start with up to 300 users. So given that we have about 90 to 100 agencies at any given point, that averages out to about 3 users per agency at this point to start us off. So if you have an interest of somebody gaining access to this, please email the CCS Soups at La Crosse with your name, your email address, and kind of what function you serve. Are you like a program lead? Are you directors? So I'm thinking about, I heard Flox Guardians is on. I know Flox has like a Flox Guardians general inbox, and Life in Harmony has like a Life in Harmony general inbox. So it's linked to an email address, the users are. So feel free to email. It may take some time because I'm anticipating there's going to be a lot of 300 worth of requests to gain access to this. So it might take a few weeks to get you set up. But what you'll see is you will get an email looking similar to this. It'll say, hey, you've been invited to join the RIC vendor CCS SharePoint site. If you don't have a Microsoft account yet, it will prompt you through create an account. Click here. Use the email that you for to gain access to this. Create a new password. Does need a user birth date for their record system to make sure we're not duplicating folks. Get a test email with a code, one of those lovely 5-digit, like, hey, here's your 5-digit code, enter it here. So you'll get a test email to that, the email you signed up for. You do the robot test, click the picture, and then at that point, you should be able to get in, theoretically. We've had a few folks try it out. They said they got in fairly easily. If they're online, they can correct me or give their own experience of it. That's kind of the process and the steps. So with that, again, I think I'll just pause if there's questions, clarities, feedback, wonderings on SharePoint.
Yay. I'm just going to say yay. I'm excited. I want on. I think that's going to be really helpful, especially if you have a question for a specific person, but you just don't know who to contact. And, you know, when you have changeover staff at WRC and we don't maybe know right away, it's going to be really helpful. And then knowing where those training things are, that's going to be helpful too. So thank you for all everyone's work who's ever done work on this. Great job.
Yes. Thank you, Ellen. That is our hope. That is our hope.
And Ryan, you won't get so many emails from me. Look at it like that.
Yeah, pro and a con, right? Yeah.
Well, it is hard sometimes to know what you have to do. I mean, I thought I had sent in my contracts and everything all done, and then all of a sudden I get a message from Chris saying, you need your contract. I'm like, oh, thought I did that. Okay, thanks. So, you know, knowing where to go to send stuff is very helpful on our end.
And I guess too, with like a short FAQ document I can send out or give to Cindy to get out with the notes, just to kind of walk through again, like, so 3 months from now, you're like, how do I get access? It just kind of walks through, here's how to gain access, the steps to walk through. And then there's just a few like, hey, now that you have access, here's some like quick tips and tricks to navigate the site and where to find stuff. So I can send that document out to folks.
Any other questions for CCS?
I have one follow-up comment, Chris. This is Ellen. One of the soups, in regards to the licensures and the credentialing, I did not say a date. We're hoping to have those in by April 30th. If you could get those sent in, that would be great. By April 30th is what we're hoping to get those by.
I think Sarah had one more thing she wanted to cover before we close the meeting?
Yes, I do. So now that I have an audience, I'm asking if any vendor providers out there are willing to consider expanding their services into our rural communities and providing services to our consumers in our rural areas within the Rick County Consortium, which would include Jackson County, almost all of Jackson County, in addition to Monroe County. That would be very much appreciated. I share this with you all because at meeting with Alicia and Jess, the clinical administrators of those counties, they are really expressing, especially in Jackson County, a huge need for alternative wellness services. So like yoga therapy and fitness and nutrition and employment services and all those types of areas. But really all of the service arrays are greatly needed in those rural counties. We understand that, those rural counties come with travel. So please note that travel it's part of your ability to bill. And you can bill for travel units into those counties as long as there's a service connected to that. But just wanted to make that clear. So if anybody is willing to consider expanding their services into those counties, please let me know. You can either email me directly or email the CCS Soups. I would love to connect you with Alicia and Jess so that you could maybe attend one of their team meetings or connect with them so that they can introduce you to their teams and get your name out there so they know that you're willing to work in their counties. If you have any thoughts or ideas of how we can service those counties better, or if you have suggestions or recommendations of vendors who would be great to contract with Rick County that are in those counties or would be willing, please let me know. I would love to make connection with new vendors so that we can really support our rural counties.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, the next meeting is Tuesday, July 11th at 10 a.m. So that will be when our next meeting is, middle of the summer. It'll probably be 100 degrees by then. So thank you so much for joining us today and have a great Tuesday.